My name is Hannah Reeves, and on my 17th birthday, my mom told me to cancel the one thing I'd been waiting for all year. Your brother feels left out, she said. Just like that, the balloons, the cake, the friends, gone. I laughed at first, thinking it was a joke. It wasn't. That night, while they sang happy birthday to him instead, I made a decision that would change everything. Because if they didn't want me in their story, I'd write my own. The morning of my 17th birthday should have felt special. But in our house, special was a word reserved for my brother. Ethan, Mom said he was sensitive. Dad said he just needed extra attention. I called it what it was, favoritism dressed up as compassion. That day started like any other. The smell of burnt toast drifted from the kitchen. Mom's voice carried down the hallway, sharp, rushed, always 2 octaves too high. Hannah, did you feed the dog? Yes, Mom. And take out the trash? I will after— No, now, please. I sighed, pulled on my jacket, and did it. Because that's what I always did. Everything for everyone else. When I came back inside, Ethan was already at the table, shoveling cereal into his mouth like he hadn't eaten in days. He was 16, just a year younger, but you'd think he was half that. He looked up at me, smirked, and said, So, you think anyone's actually coming to your party? I ignored him. But Mom didn't. Ethan, she said, setting down a mug. That's not nice. Then she smiled at him. Soft, forgiving, the same way she always did. He grinned wider. I'm just saying, Hannah's not exactly popular. I looked at Mom, waiting for her to say something real. She didn't. Instead, she changed the subject. Hannah, don't forget to pick up the cupcakes later, okay? Cupcakes. The only thing about this day I'd actually planned myself. My friends were coming over, a small group from school. Nothing fancy, just music, some food, laughter. For once, I wanted the house to feel like mine. But when I came back that afternoon with 2 pink boxes in my hands, everything had changed. Mom was standing in the living room, her arms crossed tight. Ethan sat on the couch looking smug. Dad was nowhere in sight, as usual. Hannah, she started. I've been thinking. That sentence always meant trouble. She sighed. I think we should postpone your party. My heart dropped. Postpone? Why? Her eyes flicked toward Ethan. He's been feeling left out lately. You know how hard this year's been for him. I blinked. What does that have to do with my birthday? He said it makes him feel invisible, she said softly. Everyone is celebrating you while he's struggling. I let out a bitter laugh. So what, I can't exist now? Don't take that tone, she snapped. I'm not taking a tone. Hannah, her voice sharpened. Please, try to understand. Understand what? That my happiness came second? That his comfort mattered more than my effort? She reached for the cupcakes in my hands. We can freeze these. Have the party another time. I pulled them back. No, her eyes narrowed. Excuse me? I could feel the sting of tears, but I wouldn't let them fall. Mom, I've spent weeks planning this. I've cleaned, I've saved my money. I said enough. She snapped. This isn't about you. That line, this isn't about you. It hit harder than anything she'd ever said. Because it always was. Everything was about Ethan, his moods, his grades, his feelings, and now even my birthday. I remember standing there, the frosting melting slightly in the heat of my palms. Ethan was leaning back on the couch, watching like it was entertainment. Mom's expression, half guilt, half authority. Something cracked inside me then, quietly, cleanly. I set the cupcakes down on the counter. And I nodded. Fine, her face softened. Thank you, sweetheart. I knew you'd understand. But she didn't see the shift behind my smile. She didn't notice how my hands trembled, not from anger, but from something colder. Resignation. That night, Ethan got to pick the movie. He chose some loud action flick. Mom made popcorn. Dad came home late, kissed her cheek, and said, "Looks cozy in here." No one said a word about the date. No candles, no gifts, no singing, just the sound of explosions from the TV and Ethan laughing at every scene. I sat in the corner, scrolling through my phone, staring at the texts from my friends. Hey, we're outside. Are you home? Everything okay? Did you cancel? I didn't reply. Instead, I watched my family, watched how happy they looked, and realized something I should have known a long time ago. I wasn't part of that picture. After the movie, Mom hugged Ethan and told him she was proud of how mature he'd been lately. Then she turned to me, and for a second, I thought she might say something too. But all she said was, "Don't stay up too late." That was it. My 17th birthday. I lay awake that night, staring at the ceiling. Every sound in the house felt louder. The hum of the fridge, the tick of the clock, Ethan snoring down the hall, and in the middle of all that noise, one thought kept circling in my head. If I stayed, this would be my life forever. The next morning, I woke up before sunrise. The world outside was still gray, soft, and empty. I packed a small duffel bag, just clothes, my phone, and the cash I'd been saving from my weekend job. I looked around my room one last time. The cracked window frame, the posters peeling from the walls, the shelf filled with trophies no one ever congratulated me for. It didn't feel like home. It felt like evidence of a person who'd been forgotten. I left a note on my pillow. Just one line, "Don't worry. Ethan can have my birthday too." And I walked out. The air outside bit cold against my face. The sky was just beginning to turn gold at the edges. I didn't know where I was going, only that it had to be away. I walked to the bus station, dragging my bag behind me. There was a route that went through 2 towns over. I'd taken it once for a school trip. It felt like enough distance to breathe. When I bought the ticket, the driver gave me a look, like he knew. "Running away?" he asked. I shrugged. "Running towards something, I think," he smiled. "Good luck, kid." The bus hissed as the doors closed, and for the first time, I didn't look back. The town faded behind me. The houses, the streets, the people who never noticed me. Each mile felt like shedding another layer of that old version of myself. By the time we reached the city, my hands were trembling. Not from fear, but from the rush of freedom. No one is telling me to be quiet. No one is making me feel small. No one is asking me to disappear for someone else's comfort. Just me. I found a cheap room for rent above a laundromat. The walls were thin and the floor creaked when I moved. But it was mine. The owner, an older woman named Gloria, gave me a set of keys and a kind smile. "First time on your own?" she asked. I nodded. She chuckled softly. "You'll be fine. You've got that look. The kind that survives." That night, I sat on the narrow bed and stared at the city lights blinking through the window. It wasn't much, but it was freedom. I called my phone service provider and changed my number. Deleted my old social accounts. Erased every trace of the person who'd been told to shrink herself to fit into a family's shadow. Days passed. Then weeks. I got a job at a small diner. It paid just enough for rent and food. Gloria became something like the mom I'd never had. Patient, blunt, but caring in her own way. "You work hard," she told me one night while I was closing up. "Don't let the past chase you," I smiled. It already caught up once. Not again. Still, sometimes I'd catch myself staring out the window at families walking by. Moms laughing with daughters, brothers teasing sisters without cruelty. And something would ache deep inside me, not regret. Just longing for a home that never really existed. One evening, a customer left behind a newspaper. I wasn't planning to read it, but the headline caught my eye. A story about local scholarship programs for students who'd faced unusual hardships. That phrase, unusual hardships, felt like a cruel joke. But something in me stirred. I'd always been good at school. Top grades, honor classes, the kid teachers liked but no one really noticed. Maybe that could still mean something. So I filled out the forms during my breaks. Wrote about working since 16. about supporting myself, about a difficult family environment. I didn't write the details. I didn't need to. The truth was between the lines. A few weeks later, I got a letter. It was from a small community college offering a full scholarship. Tuition, books, even a small stipend for housing. I cried when I read it. Not the dramatic kind, the quiet, shaky kind that comes when something inside you finally unclenches. That night, I called Gloria to the room. "I got in," I whispered. She hugged me tight. "See? Told you. Survivors always find a way." As I lay in bed later, staring at the ceiling again, just like that night months ago, I realized the difference. Back then, the silence felt like suffocation. Now it felt like peace, but peace doesn't erase the past. And deep down, I knew it wouldn't stay quiet forever. Because while I was busy building something new, my family was starting to notice the space I'd left behind. And when they finally came looking, they wouldn't find the same girl who left. They'd find someone who'd learned how to take back everything she was denied, and more. The first message came from Mom, then Ethan, then Dad, all risking the same thing. "Where are you?" And when I didn't answer, they started showing up. That's when everything I thought I'd escaped came crashing back. It started with a knock. 3 sharp raps against the metal door of my tiny apartment. I froze. No one ever came here without calling first. When I opened the door, I saw her. Mom. Her hair looked different, shorter, grayer, but her eyes were the same. That mix of control and guilt she always wore like perfume. "Hannah," she breathed out, relief flooding her voice. Oh, thank God I didn't move. Didn't open the door any wider. She glanced past me into the small space behind. A bed, a desk, a single chair. "This is where you've been living?" I nodded once. She frowned. "You could have called." "I did," I said quietly. "For 17 years, her face tightened. "That's not fair," I almost laughed. "Fair? You canceled my birthday because Ethan was sad. You made me disappear in my own house." Her lips parted like she might argue, but she didn't. Instead, she said softly, "We've all been worried sick. Your brother hasn't been the same." I stepped back slightly. "Is that supposed to make me feel guilty?" She sighed. "He's been seeing a therapist. He's realized how much he hurt you." "Good," I said. "That's progress." She frowned again. "Don't be cruel, Hannah. Cruel." That word hit hard. I'd been called selfish before, dramatic, difficult. But cruel? I looked at her, the woman who taught me that my emotions were an inconvenience, and felt something sharp rise inside me. "You came all this way to make me the villain again?" "No," she said quickly. "I came to bring you home." Home. That word didn't mean what she thought it did. "There's nothing for me there," I said flatly. "You don't mean that." "I do." Her voice dropped, trembling now. "You can't keep punishing us." I looked her dead in the eyes. "I'm not punishing anyone. I just stopped letting you punish me." She stared at me for a long time, then turned away. "I'll tell your father you're safe," she said quietly. As she reached the hallway, she stopped. "Ethan wanted to come. I told him not to." I didn't respond. Then she added, "You know, he still keeps your picture on his desk." I closed the door before she could say anything else. For days after that, I couldn't focus. At work, I'd drop plates. Forget orders. The sound of her voice replayed in my head over and over. "You can't keep punishing us." Was that what I was doing? No, I was surviving. But guilt has a way of sneaking in, even when you think you've locked all the doors. One evening, as I was closing the diner, a familiar voice came from behind the counter. "You're hard to find." I turned. Ethan. He looked older, taller. The cocky grin was gone. In its place, something softer. "Regret, maybe. What are you doing here?" I asked. "I needed to see you," he said. "Mom said you wouldn't talk to her. So she sent you instead?" He shook his head. "No, I came on my own. I crossed my arms." What do you want, Ethan? He hesitated. To apologize, I stared at him. For what? For everything. The party. The years before that. I was a jerk. I knew what I was doing. That surprised me. For once, he wasn't pretending. Why? I asked quietly. Why did you always make it about you? He looked down. Because it worked. The honesty stung. He met my eyes. Mom and Dad never said no to me. I learned early that if I cried hard enough, you'd get blamed. It became easy. He exhaled slowly. But after you left, everything changed. Mom stopped smiling. Dad got quiet. The house feels like it's missing oxygen. I waited. He wasn't finished. I thought you'd come back, he said. I thought it was just another one of your dramatic moments. But you didn't. He took a shaky breath. And that scared me. There was something in his voice. Not manipulation this time, but grief. For a second, I almost softened. Then I remembered the night of my birthday. The laughter. The silence. You took everything from me, I said. And now you're here because you lost your favorite audience. He winced. That's not true. Then what do you want, Ethan? He swallowed hard. To fix it, I shook my head. You can't fix this, he stepped closer. Then let me try. Part of me wanted to believe him. Another part, the part that had learned survival the hard way, didn't, so I said, if you really mean that, don't come back. Ever. He looked like I'd slapped him. Then he nodded slowly. Okay. He left without another word. For weeks after that, I thought that was the end of it. I threw myself into work, into classes, into the fragile rhythm of the new life I'd built. But the past doesn't just fade. It festers. One morning, I walked into the diner and found Gloria holding an envelope. No return address, she said, handing it to me. Inside was a check, made out to me, $10,000 and a note, for college. From Dad, my hands trembled. I hadn't spoken to him once since leaving. I folded the note back inside, heart racing. Gloria saw my face. Good or bad news? Both, I whispered. She nodded. Money can't heal everything, you know, I smiled faintly. It can pay for textbooks, though. But later that night, lying awake, I couldn't stop thinking about it. Why now? Why so much? Then my phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. You don't have to forgive us. Just come home. Please. Mom. I stared at it for a long time, the screen light burning my eyes. Then another text came through, from Ethan. Dad's sick. He's not saying it, but it's bad. I sat up in bed, heart pounding. I hadn't prepared for this. For real guilt. Real consequence. The kind that wasn't emotional manipulation, but genuine loss. Was this karma? Or another trick? I didn't know. But the next morning, I was on a bus heading home. The house looked smaller. Or maybe I'd just grown. Mom answered the door before I could knock. Her eyes were red. You came, she whispered. I nodded, unsure if I was making a mistake. The living room was the same couch, same pictures, same ghost of the girl I used to be. Then I saw Dad, thinner, paler, hooked up to a small oxygen tank beside the recliner. He smiled weakly. There's my birthday girl. Something cracked inside me again, the kind of pain that doesn't show but never leaves. I sat beside him. You look terrible, I said softly. He chuckled. You always had a way with words. We talked for hours. About school. About work. About everything except the years between us. Then, when Mom stepped out to make tea, he took my hand. I wasn't a good father, he said quietly. I saw how your mom treated him and thought she'd balance it out by loving you differently. But she didn't. She just gave him everything. And I let it happen. Tears stung my eyes. Why? Because it was easier, he admitted. And I'm sorry, Hannah, for every time I stayed quiet. It wasn't the apology I'd imagined, but it was the one I needed. He smiled faintly. You remind me of your grandmother. Strong, stubborn, brave. Then his eyes softened. Don't waste your strength on hate, okay? I nodded. I'll try. But trying doesn't mean succeeding, because 2 days later, I overheard Mom on the phone, whispering in the kitchen. Yes, the check cleared. No, she doesn't know it was from Ethan's savings. My chest went cold. I stepped into the doorway. What did you just say? She froze. Hannah, you used Ethan's money? You lied? It's still family money, she snapped. Does it matter whose account it came from? Yes, I shouted. It matters because you made it look like Dad finally cared. She flinched. You don't understand. No, Mom, you don't understand. You can't buy forgiveness. Not with guilt, not with someone else's savings. Ethan walked in then, eyes wide. What's going on? I turned to him. Did you know? He hesitated. I told her to do it. My breath caught. You what? I thought if you knew it was from me, you'd refuse it, he said. I just wanted to help. You lied, I whispered. Both of you. Mom stepped forward. We were just trying to make things right. I laughed, sharp, bitter. You don't make things right by doing the same thing all over again. Their faces blurred through my tears. All the progress, the apologies, the moments that almost felt real, gone. I packed that night. Mom cried. Ethan begged. Dad just sat in silence, watching me with sad, knowing eyes. Before I left, he said, Don't let this turn you cruel, Hannah. You deserve better, even if it's not us. I nodded. I know. As I closed the door behind me, I realized something. Forgiveness isn't about saying it's okay. It's about deciding who deserves a place in your peace. And they didn't. Not anymore. But peace wouldn't be enough. Not after everything they'd taken. It was time for something else. Something I'd never let myself feel before, and maybe a little revenge. Revenge doesn't always come with fire or fury. Sometimes it arrives dressed as success. When I left the second time, I didn't cry. Didn't look back. I'd already done my mourning. Now it was time to build something they couldn't touch. I worked double shifts at the diner, saved every tip, every extra dollar. Took on night classes at the college, business, communications, and digital marketing. I didn't know exactly what I wanted, but I knew what I didn't, to ever need them again. Gloria became my anchor through it all. She'd find me half asleep over textbooks and say, You're building something, kid. Brick by brick, and I was. A year later, I started my own small online bakery, Hannah's Haven. It began with 2 ovens, 1 borrowed camera, and a handful of customers from the diner. But I knew how to tell stories, and people love a good story with their sweets. I posted videos, recipes, notes about independence, healing, and self-worth. Within months, orders started coming from all over the state. The girl who once cried over canceled cupcakes was now baking them for hundreds of strangers and getting paid for it. But success has a funny way of echoing. It travels. And eventually, it reached them. It started with a comment under one of my videos. Is this the Hannah Reeves from Maplewood? Your mom brags about you all the time. My stomach turned. Brags? That word didn't fit the woman I knew. Then came the messages. Old classmates, neighbors, even teachers. They all said the same thing. Your mom says she inspired your baking. Inspired. I stared at the screen, fingers trembling. The woman who once threw my birthday cupcakes in the freezer was now telling people she made me who I was. That's when I decided, quietly, calmly, to set the record straight. It started with a single video. Nothing dramatic, just me in my small kitchen, camera steady. I said, when I was 17, my birthday was canceled because my brother felt left out. My cupcakes never got served, so I learned to serve myself. I didn't say their names. Didn't need to. The emotion did the work. The video blew up. 500,000 views in 3 days. Comments flooded in. People sharing their own stories of being overlooked, silenced, forgotten. I read every single one. And for the first time, I didn't feel alone. Then came the interview requests, podcasts, blogs. Everyone wanted to know how I turned pain into purpose. I spoke about resilience, about starting from nothing, about building beauty out of what breaks you. But never once did I speak about them by name. That silence? That was my power. Because the truth hurts more when it echoes, when everyone knows it, but no one says who it's about. Weeks later, I got a letter, handwritten. The envelope smelled faintly like Mom's perfume. Inside, "You've embarrassed this family. Take down that video before people find out it's us." I smiled. Then I folded the letter neatly and slipped it into my recipe book, between the pages for chocolate cake and lemon tart. The next day, I posted another video. This time I said, "Sometimes the people who break you will beg for silence. That's how you know your voice matters." The comments exploded. Support poured in. Orders tripled overnight. Revenge doesn't have to scream. Sometimes it just thrives. Months passed. My bakery became a brand, Haven Goods. We shipped nationwide. I hired staff, opened a small storefront, and even partnered with local shelters to donate food weekly. People began recognizing me on the street. Not as the forgotten daughter, but as the founder, the creator, the woman who turned left out into unstoppable. And then they showed up again. It was a Saturday morning. The shop was busy. Kids laughing, music playing, ovens humming in rhythm. I looked up from the counter. And there they were. Mom, Dad, and Ethan, older, smaller somehow. Like time had taken more from them than I ever could. "Hannah," Mom said softly, voice trembling. "We saw your store on the news." I nodded. "I figured." Ethan smiled faintly. "It's amazing. You really did it." I wiped my hands on my apron. "Yeah, I did." Mom stepped closer. "We're proud of you." I stared at her. That word, proud, felt strange in her mouth. Like she'd borrowed it from someone who actually meant it. "I didn't do this for you," I said. She blinked. "I know, but maybe now—" "No," I interrupted. "You don't get to come back now that it's easy to love me." Her eyes filled with tears. "We made mistakes." "Mistakes?" I said quietly. "Mom, you didn't forget my birthday. You erased it." The room went still. Dad's voice broke the silence. "We just want to make peace." I looked at him, frail, older, but finally honest. And I realized peace was something I already had. "You can make peace with yourselves," I said softly. "I already made mine." Ethan stepped forward. "Can we at least buy something?" That made me laugh, really laugh, for the first time in years. "Sure," I said, "but you'll have to wait in line like everyone else." He smiled sadly. Fair enough, they stayed. Bought cupcakes. Sat quietly at a corner table watching me work, and for once I didn't feel anger. Just distance. Like I was looking at ghosts that no longer haunted me. When they left, Mom placed a small envelope on the counter. I didn't open it until closing time. Inside was a simple note. "We're sorry, truly. We see now what you were trying to say all along." And below it, a picture of the three of them holding my cupcakes, smiling awkwardly. No manipulation. No guilt, just human. I didn't cry. Didn't rage. I just placed the note beside the others. The old apology, the old lies, and whispered, "It's enough." Because revenge isn't about hurting them. It's about healing yourself loud enough that they hear it. And they did. When I locked the shop that night, I stood outside for a moment, watching the glow of the sign reflect in the window. The same name that once meant nothing, now, everything. I walked home under the city lights, breathing in the quiet. Not victory, not spite. Just peace, steady, earned, and finally mine. It's strange how peace doesn't arrive with applause. It just settles. Quiet. Steady. Like the world finally stops asking you to prove yourself. A year passed. The shop kept growing. New flavors, new faces, new stories. But every once in a while, I'd see their names in my orders. Ethan Reeves, 24 lemon cupcakes. Mom, a chocolate cake, no message. They never came in again. And I never reached out. That silence became our truce. Sometimes I still think about that girl, 17, standing in the kitchen with melted frosting and shaking hands. I want to tell her she was right to walk away, that the loneliness she feared would one day turn into freedom, that her pain wasn't wasted, it was the recipe, because that's what healing is. It's taking what broke you and turning it into something sweet. On my 21st birthday, I closed the shop early. No big party, no cameras, no noise. Just me, a single cupcake, and a candle. I whispered, "Happy birthday," to the reflection in the window. The girl who had once begged to be seen was finally looking back at me. Calm, sure, whole. I blew out the flame and smiled. Because this time, the wish had already come true. If there's one thing I've learned, it's this. Forgiveness isn't for them. It's for you. It's the quiet kind of revenge. The kind that grows roots and blooms long after they've stopped watching. My name is Hannah Reeves. And my story didn't end when they took my birthday away. It started there.